Is everything okay?
Yes, but I have something to confess.
I have the craziest story to tell you too. We need to meet.
Okay, let's meet at the studio.
Okay, I'll be there in 5.
My name's Pricila Delatorre,
And my name is Jordan Hemp,
and you're listening to Off the Market Confessions.
where we talk about real stories, real estate, and real life. Welcome back to Off the Market Confessions for episode 20. 20th episode.
Wow.
Yeah, we should celebrate. We should open the champagne.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So on this episode, we have something really important to talk about. Wildfires. It is wildfire season in the Valley in Washington State. And it's starting to get hot and dry. And in the past few weeks, you've seen a lot of fires and whatnot around here.
Yeah, very smoky air.
Yeah. And so we felt like it was a really good time to talk about what people should do to prepare their homes and their families for fires. So one of the questions that we were kind of asking ourselves to get started on this is, if somebody had 1 hour to evacuate their home, what should they do first? What should they grab? What should they do? And 1 hour is actually a pretty gracious amount of time,
Right.
because you're not always given that. But I feel like with our fire departments and police departments, like they're pretty responsive to fires, especially at this time of year, and they do what they can to evacuate people as early as possible.
Yes. Yeah.
Especially in these like rural areas where people have all their farm animals and all
Mhm.
that. But if you had 1 hour, Priscilla, your
What would I
neighborhood is
do?
burning down. Yeah, what would you do?
I would definitely, any important documents like my social, my birth certificate, I would make sure that I had those. I think if I had any pets or children, obviously make sure you have them. If you do have children, like say you have a baby, make sure you take like their formula or stuff that
Right.
you're going to need immediately, like that day. Most of these things you can buy, but I think, of course, if you're not in a position to spend money or if you don't have any money, then it can also
Right.
get difficult. So take the essentials. I don't have any kids and I don't have any pets, so I might take like my makeup and stuff. I don't know. Like my
Hey, if you have an hour,
just
grab
like
what you can.
yeah, just like things that I, like my basics, take a toothbrush, like things that I need and then take with me. I don't
Yeah.
know. I guess if I had like kids and more important things, I don't know, maybe my laptop so I can still work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a big one.
Shoes, like as much clothes as I can take. That's like something, simple, because obviously what am I going to wear,
Right.
for the next
Right.
few days? I don't
Yeah.
know. What would you take?
Gosh.
Mainly
well,
documents is what I'd be
so,
worried about.
Yeah. I feel like we have pets. We have
Mhm.
5 pets, and those, like, they're probably the priority, right?
Mhm.
I'm not going to let the house burn down with them in it.
Right. Yeah.
And it's hard because, like, with cats, like, you can't, you can't get their litter box, and
Right.
you just got to grab them and you got to put them in like a kennel or something
Yeah.
and get them out of there. But with
Yeah.
the dogs, like, I need to bring their leashes. Like,
Mhm.
I can't just have them running free, in my car, because where am
Right.
I going to go? What am I going to do with them?
Right.
So, like, some leashes or whatever. And their stuff is like really easy. I always have it hanging by the
Mhm.
door. But documents would be a big one. Anything that's like related to our house that I might need as proof.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if I need to have a recent mortgage statement or contact info from my mortgage company for utilities, or
Honestly,
I
like
could find that
chargers
stuff.
too.
Yeah.
Because
some clothes.
Yeah, most of that stuff you can probably get online, but like your birth certificate, you
Yeah.
probably need that,
Yeah. And I'd probably grab all my car keys and try to get all my cars out of the
Yeah.
house. Like, but if the
Same.
whole neighborhood's burning down, like, I can only take one car at a time.
Right.
So it's like I would take one car,
Right.
but I would at least try to get the other ones out of the house.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm like,
So-
I would take my couch. Just kidding. I wish.
Start moving out.
No, I mean,
Call
right.
the U-Haul truck in. Be
Right.
like, we got an hour, you guys.
Right. I think for me, because it's just, me and him,
Yeah.
then it's kind of like, as long as we're okay, we take like any basics that we need. But obviously, if you have children, if you have pets,
Yes.
your pets alone is going to take time, because your cats are probably going to be scared.
Yeah,
you know?
hiding. Yeah. So actually, an example of this, I kind of lived through an experience about this last year. It's coming up on 1 year ago. I think it was July 13th.
Crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was my mom's birthday. I remember
Oh, yeah.
you sent us a video and I was like, look, Mom, my friend's house is like, there's a house in front of it that's on fire.
Yeah. So I live
insane.
in Sela, and a lot of people remember that in 2025, there was this hillside that caught fire and it burnt 3 houses along the ridge in our neighborhood. Houses directly across the street. So thankfully it wasn't windy that day. day. And the street, was a big buffer between our houses to where I felt like mine and my neighbors on the same side were pretty safe. But it was interesting. Like 3 of them burnt and 2 of them were completely demolished afterwards. They're still not rebuilt. They're just gone. But the
Crazy.
3rd one, they started rebuilding and they're not finished with it yet. But that one wasn't a full teardown. But the reason why they burnt is because these people that own them, they were rentals. So they're owned by a company. They never did anything to keep them up and make sure that they were safe from a fire. They had let the yards completely die over the years while they had tenants there. And they never had great tenants who wanted to take care of them either. And these houses were basically surrounded by old, like, evergreen bushes, arborvitaes, and just these big bushes that come right
Flammable.
against the back of the house. And they may have looked kind of green still. They were not looking the healthiest, but they were still kind of green. But the inside of those things are so
Like dried
dry
out.
and brown and crispy. I mean, when that fire started at the bottom of the hill, it only took a couple minutes for it to reach the top of the hill. And it got those bushes. And as soon as those bushes were starting to catch fire, I think I noticed because my dogs were barking, I could hear sirens. And I was in the back room. And so I walked out of the back room into the kitchen and I could see through the window above my kitchen sink, which kind of looks out at those houses. All I could see was just a bunch of smoke. And I was like, oh my God, what's going on? And I walked closer and that fire was just up to the back of the houses and the houses weren't burning yet. But I knew instantly, I was like, there's no chance. These houses are toast.
Yeah.
And the bushes, as soon as they caught fire, it was maybe within a few minutes, I could start seeing black smoke, which was the roofing material and the house starting to burn a little bit. And as soon as I started seeing the black smoke, I knew these houses were gone. And so they caught fire pretty quick. And the 3rd house in a row, what was a coincidence is these 2 houses were vacant. They didn't have tenants in them at the time. One of them was actually boarded up because their last tenant had a bad drug problem there and they destroyed the house. And
crazy.
I live in a really great neighborhood where this was the ugliest scene in the neighborhood. I know the whole neighborhood hated these people for letting tenants live there like that.
Yeah.
But they'd cleaned up the 2nd one and apparently they'd rented it out the night before. They signed paperwork to rent it out, but nobody had moved in yet, thankfully.
No
And
way.
so after it burned, they had to tell him, sorry,
the
house is gone.
Oh my God.
But then, so those 2 were vacant. Then the 3rd house that burnt had, the owner died in 2021 and the children maintained it. They didn't even live here. They just would send yard companies over to maintain it. And it was a beautiful house, super beautiful.
Yeah.
But it was really close to the other one. And it also had some shrubs and stuff around it that were healthy, but the inside of those things get really dry. And so it caught those shrubs on fire, which then sent the flames up into the eave of the roof, kind of the overhang. And it got through the vents and caught the attic on fire. And that house partially burnt, mostly the attic. Had it been windy that day, the embers probably would have flown over and dropped on other areas and potentially caught more houses on fire. But it wasn't. They were going pretty straight up. It was the first time in the history of the city of Sela that they ever had to call air support in for a fire. Just because of how hot it was and how close together the houses were, that it was just a high risk. So I think they had 3 helicopters out there that day. And they called in the range 12 team, which is the wildland firefighters that are up in the mountains.
Yeah.
They called them in to do some trench digging and stuff to kind of create fire lines. It was a big deal. And they had every fire department in the valley there. So, and I was there for it all. I have videos of it still. I'll probably share them again on the anniversary of it just to be this is still a crazy day.
That's so crazy. That's so scary too.
Yeah.
I mean, did you think shoot, what if I feel like reality would really set in oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Something might happen to our house.
So the sheriff knocked on my door right away. I obviously knew that it was already on fire. Everything was on fire. But I went and called my partner's son and he didn't pick up. So I took a quick video because I know he wears his Apple Watch, took a quick video of the fire and he sent it to him. And I said, the houses are burning next door to us. And all he
Did
could
he
see,
freak out?
he was at work and all he could see was his watch lighting up with this fire in this house that obviously he recognizes.
He's probably
was with a client
panicking.
and he was like, I'm so sorry. I have to go make a call. And he called me and he was like, do I need to come home? And I was like, not yet. And so I called my mom. She lives nearby and she wasn't working at the time. And this was on a weekday. I was actually leaving for work when I noticed the fire and I had to cancel all my plans. I was just like, sorry, not going anywhere today. But I called my mom and she was like, I'll come over. And she beat some of the fire department before they had set up barricades to get in there. And we got all the animals and put them into one bathroom. So that way, like I could grab them and go if I
In
needed.
case, yeah.
And then the fire department, they wanted us to evacuate, but I told them, I was like, I'll evacuate like if I feel like it's getting to be risky. But right
Right.
now, I feel like it's not going to cross the street.
Yeah.
And so I said, like, is there anything I can do in the meantime? And they said, just get your hoses out and
Yeah.
start wetting down your roof or anything that's dry around here if you can.
Yeah.
But just so you know, the water's probably going to be turned off here really soon. And I was like,
shoot.
why would they do that? Well, it's
Yeah.
because they're the fire hydrants somehow are tied into the water
Oh.
system in our neighborhood. And so as soon as they turn the fire hydrants on, I
Everything
lost
else.
like all the pressure.
Oh, that's crazy.
So
I didn't know that.
and they didn't cut the
Okay.
power either, which normally with a lot of people probably have experienced this now. Washington State has this power outage type rule that if there's a high fire risk in an area, there's a fire nearby, they'll cut the power because they don't want power lines to go down and then
Right.
create more fires.
Right.
And so they didn't do that day. I think it's because it was like it happened so fast that they didn't have time to cut the power.
Yeah. That's
And so,
crazy.
yeah, I had the
How
animals ready
scary. Oh my
and I was wetting down the roof as much as I
I
could.
remember you
but
sent us a video. Yeah.
I have a newer roof and it's composition, so it's like,
Mhm.
fairly safe.
Yeah.
It's not like a dry wood roof. That's what my house used to have.
Mm.
And there was actually a fourth
The
house
shake,
that
the
almost,
shake
yeah,
kind? Oh my
roof.
gosh.
There was a fourth house that has a shake roof that almost burnt. Their whole yard burnt around the house. The fire department was just blasting that house with
Wow.
water to keep
Yeah.
it wet because of that shake roof.
Yeah.
And actually, then the one on the other side of that was just as much at risk and also had a shake roof. So they were
Yeah.
both like really close. And one of them, this is like kind of just a crazy little side story, but the fourth one that was really close to burning, that woman that lives there, her husband died in the street like 3 years ago. He was like walking out to one of his vehicles on the side of the road and he had a heart attack and died in the road.
Oh my God,
And
that gave me chills.
we had
That's so
just left
sad.
on a trip to Las Vegas and we could see on a Ring doorbell all the fire department in front of our house. And we had somebody house sitting and she was like, what's going on?
My God.
And turns out he passed away. And then her house almost burnt in
Poor
that fire like a
lady.
year
Oh my
later.
God, that gives
She has
me
a bunch of
chills.
kids too. She has like 3 or 4 kids, middle school and high school. And then just this year, we had all new water lines put in our neighborhood. They redid all the fire hydrants. I think this might have to do with the performance of how they did last year. They were old and I don't think they worked as properly as they wanted.
Oh, yeah.
And so they upgraded all of the water lines in the neighborhood this year. And they
Wow.
just finished repaving our road like last week.
Wow.
But leading up to this, they had broke a main water line and it flooded that lady's house.
Oh my God, poor lady.
Not only that, she had mold start growing and her whole family got sick from it.
No way.
So they've been through it with that house.
That
It feels
literally
sad.
like gave me chills.
Yeah,
Poor
I know.
lady.
I know. It's
Oh,
crazy.
sad.
But yeah, so anyways, that's kind of the story of that fire.
Yeah.
It was one of those things where like I didn't wake up that morning thinking that would happen.
Yeah.
And I didn't, I didn't wake up. I've never woke up any day and been like, what should I do to prepare my house for a
Yeah.
fire?
Yeah. Do you think
know?
that wildfires and like the risks that they pose are affecting buyers' decisions? Like
Yeah.
when people are going out to look at houses? Because
It
I
would
have a
for
few story
me.
times. So I've showed some houses out, like, we go everywhere in the middle of nowhere. And there's been homes that I've gone to where it's just like a mile of like the
Dry
dry
grass.
grass. And I will mention to my client, like, just this is a beautiful home, be mindful of what's next to you.
Mm.
Because if a fire were to start, it's, it
Yeah.
might come this way. And people always tell me like, oh, I never thought of that.
Well,
But I'm like, well, you better think about it
You
because
better.
Washington is a dry state.
and I
Yeah.
think like honestly, the chances of
Well, this side at least.
if you live in the country around Yakima Valley, I would almost guarantee, it's crazy to even say this, but I would almost guarantee that at some point in the time that you live there will be a close by fire. Where I grew up in Moxie off of Conowalk Pass, that hill caught on fire multiple
All the time,
times.
yeah.
And it just burnt again a few years ago. And the fire a few years ago, we didn't live there anymore at that house, but it got right up to the back of the house, which was the closest it had ever been. And so, I mean, for me, like I grew up kind of watching some of that stuff. So like this fire didn't really scare me that day, but it was just like so surreal. Like I could not believe that was actually happening.
Yeah. And the
I'd
good
never
thing
had
is,
one that close to me
yeah, the
before.
good thing is you're pretty calm and like didn't panic. But I feel like most other people probably would have panicked and
Yeah.
like not did anything to protect their homes. They would have grabbed their stuff and left
Yeah.
versus like trying to save what's there, or protect it at least.
It would be devastating to lose my home, and that goes
Oh,
for
yeah.
anybody, but I just feel like, that would have just been, like, chaotic.
Yeah.
So I was willing to fight it if I had to. That's kinda the
Mhm.
way I thought about it, and I'm not
Yeah.
really, a rebel with the firefighters. Like, I wanna listen.
Right.
If they're like, "You gotta go,"
Right.
I would, but, like, I'm not gonna go. I felt like at the time, I was like, "I'm not gonna go until I feel like this is, like, the scene is getting really out of control."
Right.
Like, I felt like they were fighting those fires. Yeah, the embers were going up in the air and stuff, but they weren't coming over my house,
Mhm.
and so that's what they were just telling me to watch out for. The
Mhm.
embers are the worst
Mhm.
part, and so that's what I was watching for, but,
Yeah.
it didn't seem that bad.
Yeah. Do you think that the risks of a wildfire like affects a home's value, like a home's value and for a home to sell? Does that make question make sense?
Yeah, I don't know. What do you think? I mean, like, I don't necessarily think that it really affects the
Yeah, the
value.
value, I don't think it does.
Um, I think that, like, a lot of homes that come with acreage, which are at a higher
Mhm.
fire risk,
Yeah.
are usually worth more because
Mhm.
they either have, like, a great view, a lot of
Yeah.
land, or and they're really
Mhm.
scenic place. Like, think about houses that are up in the mountains off of
Yes.
White Pass or Chinook Pass. Those are
Mhm.
some really
Yeah.
fancy pieces of
They
real
are.
estate.
They are.
Very nice, but they're at high fire risk,
Right.
extreme risk, and so I don't necessarily think that that deters people in the value
Mhm.
sense, but does it maybe deter buyers, like, especially somebody who's had an experience of losing their home before?
Right.
I bet they'll never make a mistake like
Mhm.
that again where they're like, "I'm gonna make sure my house is
Right,
prepared."
ready or prepared or protected somehow. I mean, I think before I was in real estate, I wouldn't have even thought about that.
Mhm.
And honestly, before these like California fires, I might have not even thought about
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
fire. Like, I don't know. I guess it's not like the first thing that comes to mind, which is funny because here, especially here in Yakima, we experience it every year.
Right.
And people lose their houses every year, and there's fires every year, and there's always like, things. But I don't know. I guess it's always like in the back of my mind, like, oh, that'll never happen. Knock on
Mhm.
wood, hopefully not. But
Well, I think what's happening, like, in California where the entire, like, neighborhoods were white.
that was
That
crazy.
is pretty insane,
Yeah.
but I think that a lot of people have this idea or mindset like, "Oh, that won't happen here." Like, California's got all these trees and
Mhm.
bigger, taller brush, but I don't think it's as far off as people think. I
Yeah.
mean, I never would have thought I live in a residential neighborhood. I never, even though they backed up to a hillside, I never thought that that was gonna be the case.
Mhm.
And then you look at Spokane and Prosser right now. Prosser just had a massive fire that burnt houses.
Yeah.
Spokane has a neighborhood right now that just was totally
Mhm.
burnt, all these houses.
Mm.
And it's a lot closer than people think. Prosser doesn't have forests and trees. There's just
Yeah.
a lot of dry, grassy
Yeah.
hills. But
Yeah.
with the right conditions
Yeah.
for dry and wind,
Mm.
it will take a
Mhm.
house
And
or a
it's
whole
been,
neighborhood out.
yeah, these past few weeks have been so hot and so windy,
Hmm.
like perfect for a
Yes.
fire. And that's why
Yeah.
we're having all these fires.
Yeah.
Yeah. Does the smoke ever affect you?
Oh my gosh. I have to tell you about last night.
Really?
Last night, the wind was so bad.
Yeah.
So we just had that fire out in the Yakima Canyon,
Mhm.
like in Sela, East
Mhm.
Sela, and the wind was so bad and like gusty last night. It was so weird. I woke up in the middle of the night, I could smell smoke. And at first, I was like, I better get up and check that
To
something's
make
not on
sure it's
fire.
not, yeah.
Yes, this is so weird that we're doing this
Mhm.
today, and this happened to me last night.
Yeah.
And I got up, I could smell like smoke. I
Mhm.
mean, it didn't smell like something, it smelled like wildfire smoke.
Mhm.
And so I was like, where's that coming from? I'm looking out the windows and it's dark, but like I didn't see any fires nearby or sirens or anything. And I think it was blowing I think the wind was coming from a
Oh.
different direction and blowing ash. Somehow it was getting into my house, probably through the air conditioning system. My house is older. It's probably not 100% sealed,
Mhm.
but it was getting in there. And there was a heavy smoke smell in my house
Oh
last
my
night.
God.
So I turned on like the fan in my bedroom and I have a little space air filter
Like a
thing,
purifier.
purifier, yes,
Mhm.
air purifier. I turned that on high, and it's like a pretty like strong one.
Yeah.
So by the time I woke up this morning, I was fine. But like as I was smelling that last night, I was getting a runny nose. I was like
Oh
all
no.
like terrible allergies from it. And this
Yeah.
morning I woke up fine. But that was really weird. So yeah, it does
Yeah.
bother me a
No,
lot.
I will literally get like migraines, the stuffy nose, like super, super dry nose, like really, really dry. Yeah. But migraines is mainly the thing. Sometimes I'll get like foggy vision or whatever, but sometimes I think I'm just tired. I don't know if it's the
Yeah.
smoke. But yeah,
I
no,
definitely feel like it
it'll
has an
give you
effect on
migraines.
people. For me, it's like bad allergies, like just really in the nose, like
Mhm.
terrible. But yeah, and then when it comes to like other real estate thoughts on wildfires, I think insurance costs are
Yeah.
a huge one, huge ones. There's a lot of areas in the Yakima Valley where people have to pay a higher insurance premium
Yeah.
because of their wildfire
Mhm.
risks. So there's not really much people can do to avoid that. But if you want a lower risk, you probably shouldn't be moving to the country.
Right.
So we have 3 things that people should do to protect or prepare their homes from wildfires. And I would say the first thing to know is that you're not safe or excluded by any means. Anybody can be at risk of a
Yeah.
fire. So,
Not just the people in the country. I mean,
yeah.
people lose their houses here in town all the time
Yep.
for
Yep.
like a random, something random that starts
Yeah.
somehow. I mean, have you been into an attic right now in the summertime?
You
Jesus
shouldn't go
Christ.
into them right now. Yeah.
They're
It's
so
hot.
like, oh my God, there's a house that I'm we have buyers for right now, and there's an attic and it's a usable space, and we're able to go up there. And when we went up there with, to the showing and when the inspection was there, the inspector was there, it was so hot. It was like crazy
Wow.
hot. Yeah.
Oh my
And
God.
I always think
That's
like,
dangerous actually
I,
to spend that much time up in a hot attic like that right now.
right.
Is not one of our points to prepare your home. But at this time of year, this is a PSA. You should get up in your attic, maybe in an evening or a morning when it's cooler,
Yeah.
and make sure that all the gable vents are open and that the roof vents are open. A lot of them are just permanently that way. But in older homes like my home, I have no idea why the previous owner had done this or the builder. But all of the vents have these things that close. So I can completely close it off. A home inspector would actually tell you not to ever close those, even in the wintertime. That's why you have good insulation. That's the purpose of your insulation. But you need airflow because
Yeah.
if there's any moisture getting in there, especially with a warm,
Right.
moist environment, that is the
Right.
perfect recipe for
Yeah.
mold. And so
And this specific
keep them
house,
open.
yeah, this specific house, the one that I'm telling you with the
Yeah.
attic, it had a little bit of mold in the attic because
Yeah.
there's probably no ventilation at all.
Or it needs more.
Yeah,
Yeah.
or
And
it
I
needs
feel like
more.
my
Yeah.
house has quite a bit of ventilation. But the thing is, with everything closed, it not only increases the chance for moisture and mold growth in there, but it actually makes it hotter.
Yeah.
And we need a breeze and airflow in there, and that keeps the temperature lower and lower risk for fire.
Yeah.
So if you haven't been in your attic before, you might want to jump up there and check. See if you have ventilation up there. A lot of houses have these actual fans that can be turned on in there to get the heat out, which might
Yeah.
keep your temperature in your house lower too.
Yeah.
But you should know your home and know your attic, not just the spots that you live in.
Yeah. Yeah. Side note, one of my clients, I ran into them at Marshall's, and they said that they were doing some remodeling, and for some reason they went like all the way in the attic or somewhere in the ceiling. And she said that there was something that they pulled it down and it was full of mice, dead
Oh,
mice.
no.
And I was like, girl, what? So anyway, they got it
They
cleaned
probably need
out.
like an exterminator
Yeah,
or
they did.
something
But
to
they were
seal
all
the attic.
but they were all dead.
Yeah. Been there
They'd
for-
probably been there for a long time.
That's a sign that they need to have their attic sealed. Somebody needs to walk around the outside or inspect the inside for pieces of light to see where animals or critters are getting in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know my attic isn't 100% sealed either. I've never had any mice or birds in there or bugs that I can think of, but it's on the to-do list
Yeah.
someday. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Anyway.
three points that somebody can follow to prepare their home for a fire, not just a wildfire, but any type of fire. This matters because homes actually are at a much higher risk of catching fire from flying embers rather than actual flames reaching it. So one of the first things, this isn't on our notes here, but one thing, especially if you live in the country, you might notice a lot of farmers will take a tractor and put a perimeter around their fields. That's a fire perimeter.
Oh.
So if something catches fire, it protects it from jumping
Spreading.
and going further. It doesn't always 100% prevent it, but it does help a lot. And that's why fire departments use bulldozers on those fires to draw fire lines.
Oh, okay.
It's the same thing. So you can do this out at your property if you like. Maybe if you have a bunch of acreage and it's all dry, take a mower and mow down the weeds. You don't have to like till it with a tractor, but like mow it down and create
Like a
perimeter.
perimeter. Yeah.
Yeah. And part of that is like clearing the dry grass and weeds or pine needles. Those get dry
I've
under
seen that. I've
trees.
seen that. There's a house. It's in Union Gap, that hill, the one that's falling, but it's more on this side. And there was a fire there a few years ago. And I remember like thinking like, oh my gosh, that house is going to burn down. But you could see like from far away when you drive closer, there was something all around it and everything burnt around it except the house.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
crazy. So
Yeah.
yeah, it works. I
It
mean,
saves them. Yeah.
it can save them. Yeah.
Yeah, and then like some people will put like rock landscaping around the border of their property or
I've seen
something
that
and keep
too.
their grass on the inside. Like that rock is going to be a huge safety factor as well. It's
Yeah.
not just for looks, it actually
Right.
protects.
Yeah.
So keep the first 5 feet. This is kind of like a rule of thumb. Probably an inspector would tell you this as well. Like at the base of your house, it doesn't matter if your
Oh, yeah.
house is brick. It doesn't matter if your house is wood, stucco. Keep the first 5 feet away from the bottom of the structure, free and
Of any
clear
debris,
of
yeah.
dried bushes and plants. Like greenery is good, but if flames are held up against greenery for like a long time, it dries them out and then they
Yeah.
catch fire.
Yeah.
So you have to be like really careful with your choice of greenery too, like something that's not going to be dry on the inside. And then, keep them trimmed down.
Yeah.
Because if you have like a bunch of bushes together, it's easier for the fire to jump from one dry bush to another. So keep trimmed down and try to keep piles of wood away from the house or
Yeah.
bark and mulch that dries
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
And then, like pull some weeds and stuff like that. It's also a really good idea. I feel like I'm going to go on another tangent here, but it's a good idea to put like rock or like a base of like landscaping around the house that's not grass either. And part of that reason is not for a fire reason, but to keep your sprinklers from hitting the house. Sprinklers cause rot and moisture
water
inside.
damage.
Water
Yeah.
damage.
Probably
Yeah.
mold.
Don't let your grass grow up against the house. Like put some of a flower bed or something there and keep your sprinklers a little bit away and make sure they don't hit the house. Trimming branches away from roofs. That's a big one because when leaves start to fall and die, they clog your gutters. And a lot of times when somebody has like a valley in their roof, like leaves and junk will pile up there. That's still a fire hazard. Yeah. So what is the simplest thing a homeowner can do this weekend to significantly reduce their fire risk?
I mean, at the end of the day, I think it's pretty simple. Just keep it clean.
Yeah.
Like keep the perimeter of your, really keep your house clean, or keep like everything
outside,
around it on the
try
outside.
don't pile up
But
junk against
don't
it.
pile up junk. It's so funny because as we're talking about this, I was in my backyard yesterday and I was looking around and I was like, oh my gosh, I gotta clean this out. I gotta get rid of this, get rid of that. So if anybody wants to help me, come to my house.
So I
But,
think we're at a perfect timing to be covering this too, because next weekend is the 4th of July. And so if you're in an area where people use fireworks a lot, especially out in Moxie area, definitely be ready because there have been houses that burnt out there before.
I feel like every year it happens, at least one. Something happens.
Yeah, I don't remember many in the last year or two, but close calls.
Yeah.
There was a house that burnt down earlier this year. It was actually, this is crazy. There's an old house in Moxie that burnt down right by the Moxie market. It actually exploded.
Oh
There was
my
a gas
gosh.
explosion inside. But I was told, I don't know this for a fact, but they had a bunch of stashed fireworks from the 4th of July before. So the fire department there, or when they got there, the fire chief had his windows down on his truck. I don't know why, but the windows were down and the fireworks started shooting out of the house as it exploded. And one of them went right into the window of the fire chief's truck.
And did it explode?
No, the truck didn't explode, but
oh my
like
God,
the firework
okay.
went in there and like that's crazy.
That is
like
crazy.
that is
Because what are the
nuts.
coincidence?
Yeah.
Like, what are the odds that that's going to happen?
So
That's crazy.
but 4th of July is like right around the corner. So you have like 1 week to get this figured out. And I will tell you that fire in my neighborhood was on July 13th on the 4th of July last year. I called it. I was sitting there with my family and I said, I feel like I just had this weird, odd feeling that these houses have a really high chance of burning down today.
Well,
because they were dry.
Yeah, if they're dry, if they're old, if they're boarded up, and if they have especially that type of roof.
They weren't shake roofs, but they were
okay.
composition. But still, I mean, the yards are dry. And
Anytime I see a shake roof, though, I'm always like, oh my gosh, like, I don't know, one, insurance, and then two, I always think like, if there's a fire, that's going to like this.
A shake roof is not really a good idea in our climate anymore.
It's really not. Yeah.
So, but it was weird because that was the 4th of July. I said, I feel like those houses are going to burn down. Well, they didn't, but it only took 1 week.
Are you
and then they did.
a witch?
I'm a psychic.
A psychic? Yeah, you might be a psychic.
For fires. Just kidding. No, that makes me sound like an arsonist. I'm definitely not.
He started the fire.
No. I think it was probably the homeowners or something because insurance payout. Just kidding.
That's true. Actually, if
I'm
let's
not
not.
actually saying that
Let's
because
not
I don't want to
get
be in
sued.
trouble. But the fire was said to be started by kids with fireworks
Crazy.
left over from the 4th of July,
Freaking kids.
playing at this apartment complex down below. And
Making
Yeah.
fun of our kids. It's just scary. I mean, if I was a parent and could you just imagine, like, well, hey, thank God nobody lived in those houses.
yeah,
Because if somebody did live in
somebody
there, if
died.
somebody died in there, if somebody lost all their stuff because your child was playing with fireworks,
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but
Crazy.
I mean, if I see a dead cat, every time I pass by like a dead animal, I'm like almost crying in my car, like a
Yeah.
freaking dummy. I can't imagine like it being my fault that somebody lost everything
Yeah.
or my
I
child's
know,
fault.
that would be
Ugh, that would suck.
crazy.
It's so sad. But okay, point number 2, harden the home against embers. So why it matters is embers can travel miles ahead, especially if it's windy. You kind of mentioned that one of the houses that caught fire, it was because it wasn't like properly sealed or something,
Well,
or that.
the third house that burnt, there were 3 in a row. The third one at the top of the row, it burnt because of the proximity of how
Mhm.
close it was to the next house.
Yeah.
But in between was a bunch of dry vegetation and shrubs like arborvitaes. Those caught fire. The third house that burnt, kind of sat perched above the house down below,
Mhm.
and those trees caught fire, and the flames were literally
Oh.
going up into the eaves of
Yeah.
that house, and
Yeah.
it caught the attic on fire. You
Oh.
want to have open eaves for airflow,
Right.
but at the same time, if there's other gaps in areas in a house, you want to try to seal as many
Right.
as possible. You want air to go in the areas that it's supposed to,
Right.
and not have like corners or gaps
Random
and
area.
stuff
Yeah.
where it's easier for flames to get in.
Mhm. Mhm.
Especially if the outside of your house is wood. If it's wood
Right.
siding, it can burn.
Right.
And then the flames easily get inside.
Another point is keeping your decks and fences well maintained and free of debris. Again, pretty much keep your areas clean,
Yeah.
and wet, I would say. Maybe not super dry. If you
Well, yeah,
have like
if
shrubs
you-
and stuff or bushes, keep them.
It's hard in a hot summer climate
Mm-hmm.
to always keep your yard like really green.
My yard is
My
yellow
yard
as
is not
hell
the
right
best
now.
shape either.
Yeah.
My yard struggles. My sprinkler system doesn't have the best coverage, but
Mhm.
some of my grass like browns a little bit in areas. But I do what I can. I keep the areas right around the house very green and wet.
Yeah.
Like the sprinkler system doesn't struggle in that area.
Yeah.
But I think that like if you can put an effort into watering more, you kind of have a little bit of a responsibility.
Yeah.
Because if you're putting your house at risk, you're kind of putting your neighbor's house at
Right.
risk too, everybody
Right.
around you. So
Right.
you have a moral obligation
Mhm.
as a responsible homeowner, I feel like, to do that.
Right.
There's no law that says you have to, but I think
Right.
that's why it's a moral thing that
Mhm.
says like take care of your stuff because you not only protect yourself, you
Mhm.
protect those
The
around you.
people
by doing
around
this.
you. Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
And there's different things that you can put into a home too to make it more fire resistant. You can have fire or ember resistant vents and
Mhm.
screens that
Mhm.
don't melt or burn. You can use fire rated roofing materials,
Mhm.
especially like a metal roof.
That's pretty cool.
Composition roof
Yeah.
is made out of like tar
Mhm.
and kind of like sand, I guess.
Mhm.
So like
Mhm.
little tiny fine pebbles.
Yeah.
And that's way more fire resistant than
Mhm.
shake roofs. Shake roofs are like a total no at
Yeah.
this point.
Yeah. But a metal roof is probably best.
Probably best. Yeah,
Yeah.
they last a lot longer too.
Yeah.
So
Roof me.
I know they're the most
They're
expensive
so
too.
pretty. They look
Yeah,
so
like
nice.
a black metal roof
Yes. And
or a copper metal roof.
oh my gosh, yours would look so cute with a copper metal
It
roof.
would, I know, but I'm not
Yeah.
willing to pay that kind of money.
Maybe
But my
I
roof
can
isn't
gift
that
you
old
that one
either.
day. I'm just kidding.
Yes. Yes.
Since I like to give.
Yes.
Oh, I love it.
One other thing people could do is like if you have older windows in a home, especially wood frame windows,
Oh,
if you
yeah.
were to upgrade those to a dual pane vinyl window, vinyl can still melt in fire. But if you go with a really, really high end stuff, it's much more durable. It is more expensive, but it's still better than a wood frame, even if you
Right.
just went to vinyl. And then the dual pane is good because when fire gets up close to a window, it can crack. And if it's only one pane, it'll break. And then fire's
get
double pane makes it twice as
Easier.
hard.
Or harder. Yeah.
Yeah.
Harder to get inside.
Yeah. So, anyways,
Okay.
what's the third point, Priscilla?
Be prepared before an evacuation happens.
Yeah, this is probably the
Yeah.
biggest of all, especially for families.
Yeah.
So, when an evacuation order comes, there's often very little time to prepare, and you're probably going to be frantic, and you're going to have 10 different things like to do things like I got to do this before we go. And if you don't have that kind of time to gather things or find your pets around the house, or especially if you have livestock and farm animals, like, that takes a lot of time.
Yeah. That'd be
So
so sad.
what's your plan? You
Yeah.
know?
We briefly discussed this too, like before we started filming. I would
This is
like them
kind of
to
funny.
know.
Yeah.
This is kind of funny, but I would like them to know what we talked about. So we talked about when you were
So
younger.
creating a family evacuation plan and meeting location.
Yeah.
And I remember this when I was growing up. I was very little. I was probably 3 or 4 when my parents finished building their house. And they always used to tell me and my brother, like, if there's a fire, you have to get out of the house and you always meet us at the power pole in front of the house. There's like a power pole across the driveway. And they said, that's the meeting location. So I always knew growing up, if there's a fire, I got to get out of the house and I have to go to that telephone pole.
Yeah.
And obviously we never had a house fire, but never had to do that. But I thought it was kind of funny because like I still remember that to this
Yeah.
day. If I was back in the house and it all of a sudden caught on fire, I would literally do that. I would
Yeah.
still go as an
Yeah.
adult. I'd get out and go to the power pole.
Yeah. And you know what I told Jordan, guys? Well, I'm Mexican. We don't plan for anything like that, right? So when I remember, being little, I remember being little and I grew up in like Natchez, Gleed area. I went to school out there and there was we lived close to a warehouse and there was like a gas explosion. All I don't remember a lot of my childhood, but what I do, I do remember the really traumatic parts because I had a kind of traumatic childhood, whatever. But anyway, I do
That's for a
remember.
different episode.
That's for another episode. Actually, it would be crazy if I told my story of what growing up. But anyway, I do remember there was a gas explosion, and I remember we had to like evacuate the area, and like everyone was walking around with like their, because we couldn't breathe this in.
Yeah.
And we ended up going to, I think, like my uncle's house, which at the time he lived maybe closer to like Sun Tides or more, even more that way, somewhere over there. But I do remember we had to evacuate and, I was so little, I don't remember like what we did, but we didn't have a plan. We didn't take anything with us. Like, because we're
What would your mom say if
she'd be like, I told them
if she wanted you to go?
She'd be like, apúrate, vámonos.
Get out the house.
She wouldn't be like, meet me, over here. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. And that's what I told him. I said, I think there is such like so many cultural differences that I think, my family, even till this day, I don't have a plan if something happens. And I've called my sister before and I've asked her, like, if something were to happen, what would you do? Where would we go? Right? And it's like, I don't know. I'll call you. What if there's no power?
Yeah.
Right? What if there's no phone service?
Yeah, you never know.
So it's like, there has to be a common, I think this is really important, not even just for fires, just for like the state of the world and what we're living, right? What if there was like a nuclear bomb that went off? Well, obviously you don't want to go outside.
I don't know if they have much of a chance.
But you know what I mean? Like, what if something were to happen that was huge? What would you do? Where would you go? Like, these things need to be talked about. And personally, me, maybe your family has a plan of whose house you'd go to, whatever. If I don't hear from you in whatever time.
Not for like a massive emergency,
But I know for sure there's got to be a lot of people like me and
doomsday planners.
Yeah, and like
stuff.
Hispanic, Hispanics that like, we just don't have a plan. We don't think about this stuff. We don't think about fire. We don't think about, things.
Yeah.
I think, but who knows? Maybe I'm just ignorant. I don't know.
I feel like, we had that plan growing up, and I feel like it's a really good idea for people to have one. And if you don't have one, especially, maybe that's something like we should put into our buyer consultations, or like once they close on the house, like here's a little packet of what you should do. First time home buyers, you probably never thought about this, but if your house burns, what are you going to do?
Honestly, this episode I feel like is putting so much into my brain right now that I'm like, oh my gosh. One, I'm not ready. My house is a mess outside. Yeah. I was just out there yesterday tanning, and I was like, oh my God, I should probably stop sitting here and enjoying the sun and maybe clean out
Get some work done.
Yeah, get some work done. But I don't have a plan. I do have a box with all my documents, but I'm not going to carry this box if there's a fire. Like, you know what I mean? I'd probably just get my keys, my bag.
If it's like actively burning in your house.
Right.
Yeah, but if you have time, maybe.
Right. If I have time, yes. But maybe like have a go bag. I don't know.
Yeah, and on our notes here it says like a go bag you should consider having one with these things, all like important documents, social security cards, birth certificates,
chargers,
death certificates, or wills and stuff like that. Medications,
medications
chargers,
is a huge one.
or just essentials. clothes. Like, could you imagine if you woke up and your house was on fire and you're like, if you sleep in your underwear or something and you ran out the door with nothing on,
Yeah.
no
Yeah.
shoes,
Yeah. And like, stop
nothing?
sleeping naked, guys. That's you, Bree, my sister, if you're watching this. My
Under
sister,
the bus.
my sister
She's
sleeps.
gonna hate you forever.
I know. Sorry, you guys. TMI. But I hear, I don't live with her, so I don't know. But I hear that sometimes she'll sleep in like her underwear or like shorts or something. Shorts is understandable. It's clothes. But realistically, it's like, are you gonna, what if a fire were to happen? Like,
So many people
and for
sleep
me,
in their underwear.
they do. And sometimes I'm, a culprit of the same thing, or I'll sleep in like a big t-shirt and that's it. You know what I mean? So like, I mean, at least it's a t-shirt, but I have had those times when my mom calls me at like 2, 3 in the morning and she's like, I have to go to the hospital. I don't, whatever, multiple times. And sometimes I'm not wearing something appropriate where I can just, get up and go.
Yeah.
And I kid you not, I get into like panic mode, even though thank God every time it's been like false alarm. Obviously she has her episodes, but it's been controlled. But there's been time, I remember the first time it ever happened, I was crying. I was freaking out. I couldn't even I literally had my clothes that I had just taken off. It was right there, like on a chair. And I couldn't even like figure out how to put it on because I was
like
so scared.
panicking,
Yeah, I was panicking. So like, obviously if it's a real emergency, like you have to think like most of the time you're not in the right state of mind, and something that seems so simple to you right now when we're like, we know what we're talking about. We're like, yeah, I would do this. You probably wouldn't because you're freaking out.
Right.
I also remember one time my husband drank bleach on accident. That's another story for another thing.
No.
I couldn't
knew
even,
somebody that did it
I
once
couldn't
and it
even,
damaged his vocal.
no, thank God he's fine. And also they thought that I was trying to kill him. I wasn't. It wasn't an
Oh
accident
my gosh.
on his end. It was nothing to do with me, but it wasn't, the bleach wasn't a water bottle. So,
Oh my gosh.
but he knew that it was in there and he accidentally grabbed that one versus grabbing the other one. But what he did is, I had taken bleach from my mom's house and I put it into a water bottle for something. It wasn't even for like clothes or
use.
anything.
Oh, yeah.
This is when we used to rent. We didn't have our own, I had done laundry at our house and I put it for something. And I remember I got to like our little apartment and I told him, I said, don't grab this in here because this is bleach. And it was in the laundry basket, right? And that night we went somewhere, we got some food to eat and he came home. I don't know why he grabbed it and he set it on our table. And he has this like tendency, he doesn't do this anymore, but he used to like open a water bottle and if this one wasn't finished, he would fill this one up, finish this one, and then drink this one. I don't know why he used to do this. Well, he did that. It had probably about this much of bleach, but he filled it up to the top. So it was diluted bleach.
Yeah.
And he drank it. And then when he started drinking it after he had like ate his food, I thought he was choking. So I started panicking. This was my first experience ever of like anything where I had to call 911. Okay.
Oh my God.
I was already like probably 20, I don't know, 7 or something, maybe 20, I don't know, 25. I don't know. I was already older. So I was an adult, right? And I couldn't even figure out how to call 911. I couldn't even unlock my phone because I was so panicking. So sometimes like.
Was he choking? Like,
No,
like,
it's just like
breathing?
he couldn't breathe. Yeah, he couldn't breathe because like he was trying to like throw up, but you can't throw it up because it just evaporates pretty much.
Oh.
So he's like, he could breathe, but he couldn't, or maybe he couldn't breathe, but he couldn't like he didn't know what to do to get it out basically. So then I called 911. They came, they gave him this little pill. They took him in the ambulance. I didn't even have any like shoes on, so I couldn't go with them, or I don't know like what I was wearing that I was like, I can't go in the ambulance. And I called my sister. I was crying. It was just a complete shit show. But it kind of put things into perspective. Like, oh my God, when something really bad happens, like, how do you react? You're not ready. Even when you think you're ready, you're not ready.
Yeah, you're definitely in a state of shock, for sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
So anyway, now I'm traumatized.
I remember that day of those fires too. Like, I wasn't in shock, but there was definitely an adrenaline setting in where it totally like kind of like blocks your ability to think clearly. And so like, I do remember that I did have things to do that day. And I just knew my first appointment, I had to cancel out. So I called my client and said, I'm sorry, I got to cancel. And then everything after that, I don't even remember what I had to do that day. And after the fires were out, I was just like, well, I guess I'll go to work now. And I came to the office and I sat here and I was just so like,
out of it.
What just happened?
Yeah.
I didn't do any work and I just ended up going back home and looking at them. And it was so weird. I just stared and stared at them for days after that. I just look at them and be like, whoa, what happened?
It's so crazy. Even I don't know. I just feel like even like a car accident, like something so simple, like you always think like, oh, I would do this. Like, why didn't you do this? Right. I remember when I got into a car accident, somebody's like, well, why didn't you do this? Well, what the, what do you
Because I
mean?
wasn't
What do you
thinking.
mean? Like,
Obviously, there's so much going on. You don't always just
yes.
think clearly, like, here are my options, you
Right.
know?
Right.
But yeah, so, but, to
But,
prepare for an emergency like that,
mhm,
it doesn't necessarily have to be a fire. But when there is a fire, obviously, evacuation plan is number
yeah.
one, preparing your go bag. Number two, so this is actually really important.
Hmm.
It's so often forgotten. Make an inventory of belongings in your home with photos and videos for insurance purposes. So if your home burns and you claim that you had expensive furniture,
Mhm.
expensive clothes, expensive maybe jewelry or
Mhm.
something, you may not if your home like collapsed because it was burnt that
Mhm.
bad,
Mhm.
you don't really get to go in there and look for it.
Right.
Like maybe, but probably not. And
Right.
so how are they going to know, your insurance
Mhm.
company, that you had a expensive diamond
Mhm.
or, fancy clothes or furniture? If you talk to your insurance person right now, you have a policy that is built to ensure a certain value of things. If you know that
Mhm.
the value of your belongings are higher than what's being insured, you need to up that
Yeah.
because they're not going to give you more than what you're
Right.
insuring for. But if you were to take a video or photos of your home in its current state and continually update, maybe once a year, I know that's a lot to kind of like remember. But, if you're just taking videos of things in your house, like new upgrades, painting a room or whatever, like it helps for insurance
Yeah.
purposes. You might be able to refer back and say, look, I did have this fancy chair or whatever.
Yeah.
And so it can be
I
covered.
wonder if that could be, for those of you that are like me that don't have any kids or any pets, if I did have an hour, maybe I could go through and do a quick little video. I already do that all the time.
Yeah,
But you know what I
you
mean?
could.
Maybe it's something where like, shoot, I'm in a rush. Let me just record just in case everything is gone when I come back.
Yeah. Yeah.
That would
Not a
be
bad
that
idea
would be
for
a good
sure.
idea.
Yeah. And then speaking of insurance, obviously most insurance companies will do an annual renewal and sometimes they'll talk to you about that because they want to get updates on, what have you changed anything in your home?
Mhm.
Has anything changed with you financially? Do
Yeah.
we need to try to see if we can adjust things? That's a really great time to kind of do an analysis on your home and
Hmm.
say, do I need to up my insurance based on the value of my belongings? Am I in a higher fire risk now
Hmm.
because of blank,
Yeah.
stuff like that?
Yeah.
Or lower fire risk. I don't
Right.
know if there's ways to lower that. But,
Yeah.
and then the last point, which is a pretty simple one, is sign up for local emergency alerts. There are different
Hmm.
ways to sign up through like the county and the
Hmm.
city through alerts. Your own city might have its own
Hmm.
alert system
I
as
think we
well.
have one. I think
Yakima does.
they do
Yeah.
because there's been, I think last year when there was fires or the times that they've gotten really bad, I've gotten like notifications before where it says like, whatever area evacuation in, request or whatever or in order or something like that. So
Hmm.
I think there are some, but not every phone gets them because I think if you turn off alerts like Amber Alerts and stuff, I don't think you'll get those either.
Oh,
So kind of something to,
hmm.
also, why
Interesting.
don't turn off Amber Alerts, guys?
Yeah. And
Let's help each other out.
that is
Yeah.
weird, but
Yeah.
they're not very often. One of the easiest things to do is like join a Facebook group or community page.
Mhm.
In our valley, there's Yakima Scan. That's a
Mhm.
really popular one for people to follow, and they're
Yeah.
fairly good at giving
Being up.
dates.
Mhm.
There's different news channels you can
Mhm.
follow, neighborhood groups. I'm like on a Sela neighborhoods page,
Mhm.
and then I'm one that's called the Hillcrest community, which is
Oh,
just my
nice.
street.
Yeah.
And
That's
so
cool.
I like being on those pages
Mhm.
because
You find out what's happening.
yeah, sometimes there's like, especially in the bigger groups,
Mhm.
there's like stupid stuff that people
I
post. And it's just like,
Do you have Ring or no?
I do, but I have all my alerts turned off unless
Okay.
there's somebody ringing the door.
I have Ring, and sometimes people will be like, "Did anybody hear that boom? What was that?"
Yes.
Man, shut up.
Yeah.
Who cares if it's like, I mean, not who cares, but like, guys, it's 2 a.m. I'm
Right.
sleeping. Leave me alone, please. I don't want this notification because then it freaks me out because I have trauma.
Yeah.
So leave me alone. I should turn
Yeah.
this off. But this is a good episode. It made me realize that I'm not ready.
I think we both have some work to do. And so that's like, I feel like our challenge to you guys that's
Yeah.
watching is like, go look at your home right now. There's no better time than
And
right now because of
yeah,
the timing of the year. We're
yes.
right before the 4th of July. The worst of the fire season is yet to
Mhm.
come.
And
Go do it.
and
Yeah.
even if you don't own your home, even if you're renting, still, like, keep those areas clean, take care of it as much as you can. At the end of the day, you live there, your stuff is there, your family's there, your pets are there. So still keep it clean, take care of it as if it were your own, you know?
Yeah. And if you're looking for resources, the fire departments,
Mhm.
if you go to the fire department webpage, I'm sure there's resources on there. You can always call a fire department if you want to. Just don't call 911, call an actual phone number for
Mhm.
them that you can talk to and
Mhm.
find resources. Ask Chat GPT what you can do. There's just so many different little things that you can do along the
Mhm.
way that you don't have to do right away. But the first thing, especially in the dry season, is make it so it's not dry. That's
Mhm.
like probably the easiest thing.
Yeah.
And know your evacuation plan.
Yeah.
So
And clean your houses outside and inside. And come help me with my lawn. If you thought the front yard was bad, wait till you see the backyard. I'm gonna show you guys a before and after. I'm hoping to have my yard redone by July 18th, which is when I'm gonna have family in
yeah,
town.
that's right.
So I have less than a month to do this.
You better
So
get
if
on it.
anybody's looking for a job, I guess by the time this is out, it might only be 2 weeks away. So I should have gotten
Yeah,
something done by then.
hopefully.
Anyway,
Okay.
well, thank you guys for watching.
Thank you guys. You know the drill. Like, comment, follow, share. And we really love it when you share. So please put it on your story. That means the most to us.
Yeah.
So thanks for watching, everybody.
Yeah.
We'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.